Hello, everybody, and welcome to Current Conversations, the podcast where the pool deck meets real life. I'm Aubrey Bowles, a former swimmer, joined by Jeff Brown, the coach who pushed me through every lap, and together we dive beneath the surface of the sport we both love. Each episode, we sit down with guests from across the swimming world, athletes, coaches, and trailblazers, to relive the moments that shaped them, the lessons learned between the lanes, and the memories that stick long after the water dries. Whether you grew up chasing the black line or you simply love a good story, you're in the right lane. All right, let's dive in. Everybody, welcome.
Thank you. Our guest today is Benji DeMotte. And Benji, this is merely why we chose you was a crass attempt to get a big audience, because as far as I know, you have coached more people in more places than anyone else in this country. So that was our primary motivation as far as that goes. So anyway, you've had some interesting coaching stops, a lot of wanderings. Can you give our audience a brief summary of all the places you've been?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot and be brief. I started right out of college. I fell into a college coaching job. At 21, I found myself as a head swimming coach of a Division III college, having never coached before. So that was obviously a questionable decision on the part of my administration. But nonetheless, what I learned early was that you could sneak by with very little coaching ability if you could recruit. And so I was at that first stop for 8 years, and I rode a Division III team to the transition to Division I. I got extremely lucky at the tail end of my career and was able to land two Chinese Olympians to a very little known school, Binghamton University, and that helped me get a job at the University of Arkansas. And that stop there was 3 really informative and if not successful years, as we lost every dual meet in 3 years. But from that, I got my first club job, and that was in Jacksonville. And at that point, my wife, she started what turned out to be an incredible career with HCA Healthcare. And from then, I followed her all the way from Jacksonville into Charleston to Richmond, and now here at Nashville. And all along the way, I've been extremely fortunate to land jobs at great places. Some of my colleagues kind of poke fun at the fact that I'm the ultimate bandwagon coach. I've now coached LSC championships in 4 different LSCs, which is a great correlation, if not causation, career. So I'm having a lot of fun here in Nashville. And for my wife, this is the mothership. So this is where we're staying.
Well, very good. So there have been no return ports of call. Papa Benji has been a rolling stone. Okay.
Yeah.
Would that be true? All right. Very good. So anyway, you've had a fascinating trajectory. I mean, first of all, you coached let's look at the age group part of the program, because we really want to put all those defeats at Arkansas behind you, and we don't want to bring them up. Okay. Even though I'm sure you could make sense of them, but the trajectory, you were at Episcopal, correct, in Jacksonville?
Yep.
And you had bowls across town.
Yeah.
And that was when bowls was, well, they probably still are extremely powerful, but that was when they were especially powerful.
Yes.
Then you went to Mount Pleasant, and we'll talk about that in a moment. You were matching up with Spartansburg, which had had many, many state titles.
Yeah.
And then you came and kind of, switched strides and came to Nova, which was already a decent team. And then you went to XL, and XL, also had interesting rivalries. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I think what I've learned in club swimming is that momentum as a club, especially in a particular city, is a really strong motive. It's really hard to break that. So my first buzzsaw I ran up against was Bowles in Jacksonville. And because I was also at a private school, Bowles being the absolute premier club at that time, at one point their relay had Ryan Murphy, Joseph Schooling, and Caleb Dressel on it, right? It's a pretty good high school age relay. But I found that I was the only team I was being compared to, because I was also a private school. But I also knew that when kids got pretty talented under me, there was always going to be whispers in the bleachers about, hey, you really probably should go where all the talent is. And I found that on the other side, being in Richmond, that was very true of Nova. What you guys have built there was such an unbelievable force. It was going to take a whole lot of probably like a career-ending scandal or like the facility completely breaking down to change that needle substantially. And I think that's what's been really interesting for me here in Nashville is, Nashville Aquatic Club is a club that has so much history and so much success, and kind of fighting that. I mean, fighting is probably too strong a word, but as their competitor, dealing with that over the last 8 seasons here has certainly been a lot of fun.
So there's a really interesting story about Mount Pleasant. I know you told
Yes.
it to me. You came from Jacksonville. I think you said you were signing your children up for a team.
Right. So the job that my wife got that moved us to Charleston, at the time, it seemed like enough money that I never had to work again. So I was settling in my mental space of now being, Pablo Escobar and never having to work again. So I signed my
Okay, Pablo.
yeah, right. My financial, well, I was better at coaching than finances. But anyway, I signed my 3 children up to swim at the local swim team, Mount Pleasant Swim Club, and the head coach at the time, a guy named Dave Horton, called me and said, "What are you doing here? I know who you are." And so he asked me to jump on originally as a 9-10 coach, and that's how I started my long 18-month career at Mount Pleasant.
So but I mean, I think you were in the line for signing up. Was that it?
Yeah, and it was. I
When
was
your
really,
secret status was revealed?
yeah, kind of, yeah. Well, I guess ultimately we have a pretty small community of swim coaches. So, um, my brilliant success at Episcopal for 7 years of always losing to bowls, that gave me a little bit of notoriety.
Okay. There's your credit. We always lost the bowls. That was a good one.
Yeah.
So you took it from South Carolina swim team, excuse me, from Mount Pleasant, and then you transformed. What did you do? What
Well,
prompted
so,
that? What
that's
did you
funny,
do?
Jeff. I look at that in the rearview mirror now. I'm I'm convinced this is maybe getting off topic a little bit, but if you look at the club excellent points and the VCC points, they're steadily climbing. And I've found over the last couple of years that at Excel, our point total every year in VCC creeps up, and the club excellent point totals are creeping up, but we're barely keeping pace with our national ranking. So it seems to me that in both measurements, the clubs at the top are getting better. And and I think now, based on my time, certainly at Nova and my time here, there is incredible momentum to having a large club with a lot of resources. I'm guessing that across the country, talent is gravitating towards the larger clubs. And so when we were there at Mount Pleasant, I had just told the um, the president of the board the day that I was telling him that we were leaving to come to Richmond. He was telling me that they had a vacancy in the head coaching position. They were asking me to take it, which put me in a bind. And you may remember that put me in a very awkward phone call with you. I said, "Hey, looks like I'm staying for a little bit." But during my time there, right as I started as interim head coach there, the head coach of the rival team announced that he was leaving. And I remember thinking, this is how you merge a club, right? Because neither head coach is sticking around. You're never going to have to worry about who's number one. And so together as 2 clubs, we hired the next head coach. Then we merged and we merged Mount Pleasant Swim Club and LTP, and together made South Carolina Swim Club. A merger that at the time I thought was going to be extremely successful and kind of move the needle in South Carolina swimming.
And did it move the needle in South Carolina swimming? I'll let you finish up with that little.
It does not appear that it has. That merger broke apart, and unfortunately for South Carolina Swim Club, due to lots of variables that I'm not really aware of, has lost some of the facilities. I think when I left, we had 4 pools that we had access to, and they were building a fifth in North Charleston that we're going to have access to. I think right now South Carolina Swim Club is down to one pool, and so it would appear that the merger that I had orchestrated did not pan out the way that I was envisioning.
Why do you think swimmers are moving to the big clubs? Or I would probably the question is better put, why do you think parents are moving their swimmers to the big clubs?
Jeff, I would guess, and your experience may be similar, that when a kid changes club, it is largely, a large percent of the time, it's initiated by the parents. And I think that one of the things that's a dynamic in club coaching is that you yourself have probably coached and managed 10,000 careers, but each family is on their first or their second, and so it's really hard sometimes to tell a parent who is managing the only swimmer they're ever going to, only swimming career they're ever going to be part of, that they should kind of trust what you have to say when to them, they don't have this benefit of this gigantic sample size of swimmers. And so I think it's very easy to chase something, chase perceived success, chase what other people in the bleachers are telling them to do. But I think part of the appeal of the larger clubs is twofold. I mean, the first is that if you have the exact same hit rate as a smaller club, your number of nationally visible swimmers is way higher, right? Even if you're coaching and producing only at the second amount, the same rate. But the second, I've really put a lot of thought to this, and it comes from my time at Nova. And this is a long anecdotal story, but when I was coaching the 13-14 group with you guys, with Mike Julian, we had this opportunity to maybe set the national age group record in the 4 medley relay with those 13-14 girls. So at the time, and I don't think I'm too far off, I believe we had in Grace a 102 breaststroke or 102.5. And then in Caroline, she was a 54 butterflyer. Her name was Olivia.
Olivia
And
Erickson. Olivia
yes,
Erickson.
yes.
Was Josephine the backstroker?
Well, so we didn't know, right? At that point, we had 3 backstrokers who were not especially fast. They were minute point level. And so we started the season sitting down with these kids and saying, hey, we need a backstroker. We probably need a 58. We need a 58, and all we have is 3-minute points. And there were 3 of them.
I guess we should name last names for the benefit of our audience.
Josephine Fuller,
Fuller, who swam at Tennessee.
Yes. But up to that point, had just started to show some signs of greatness, right? So I remember we get to the Maryland December meet, and those 3 girls who were trying to battle for that spot all made finals that night, but they were like 3:59s, which was they were all huge swims. And so we had to sit down and say, tonight at finals, the fastest backstroker gets on that relay. And the result was a 57 and 2 56s, right? It suddenly made Mike and I look like world-class backstroke coaches. How did we get 3 13-14 girls under 57.5 and 100 backstroke? Well, I think the answer was A, they wanted to be on that relay bad, and B, that's what everybody else was doing around them. They saw the other 3 legs on this relay being absolutely top of the nation, and it didn't. Maybe they weren't aware how special that was. I think that is part of the trick of large clubs. I think speed and talent breeds more speed and talent, but it actually has to be a critical mass, right? If you have a superstar kid, but she's by herself in terms of talent, I think sometimes the other kids in the group look at her as a different species or a different level. But if you have 5 or 6 of them, then suddenly they go, okay, well, this is what we expect. You have that luxury at big clubs. And I think that the proof is in, I did this a million years ago, but I have a strong suspicion that of the 48 kids or whatever we place on the Olympic team this year, there's not going to be a whole lot of them coming off of clubs under 200. I mean, that's my guess.
Well, it's interesting what you said. I think that same thing happened with the Mason Manta race, where they had a couple of boys, and then a couple other boys stepped up. And I don't know the history of them, but it appeared to me that, it was that phenomena that you get when you put good kids together, and all that. Okay, let's it's kind of getting back to something you said about South Carolina swim team. Are you guys a multi-site team or a single site team?
So we're multi-site, and we're trying to make more sites. And this comes a lot from what we just talked about. I think that the big team and the multi-site team is the best model to bring swimming into underserved areas, because the traditional model is that you go into an area that has a limited pool access and no real history of club swimming. And the traditional model is you start a club and you basically live in Sufferville for 5 or 6 years trying to keep the doors open, right? Kind of keep the lights on. If instead Excel or Nova or anybody else can instantly lend to that site the website, the social media, the apparel deals and all that, then when you do get a kid who starts to perform at a higher level, now they have a team waiting for them at junior nationals. They have relay spots if they earn them at NCSAs, and that's a whole other experience. And so I really do believe that although I'm sitting here maybe preaching that the rich should get richer, I think that's a great model to serve underserved areas where you can maybe subsidize that a little bit, maybe put in a full-time coach in an area that's not going to be able to support a full-time coach for a couple of years. And so I think that's what we're interested in doing.
That's pretty much almost a metro model.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a metropolitan area. That's where it works best in.
Well, not for us. I mean, where we are based is metro area, but we have some sites that are about, our farthest sites away is about an hour. It doesn't feel metro there.
Okay.
But they're within driving, you're right. They're within driving distance. So the home meets aren't a terrible slog.
So probably more of an NCAP model where there are
very
some
much. Yeah.
significant distances.
You know better than anybody in the country, being as close as you were to NCAP. I think part of their genius was keeping an entire swim league together without having a team spin off or break off, or they're basically, NCAP was a swim conference in and of itself, and that's their genius. They held it together.
They answered a lot of questions with their model,
Yeah.
what they were doing. Yeah, great admiration for what they were doing up there. Let's get a little less serious here. Let's talk about something important. You really have a very weak showing on Duolingo. Am I
Here's
supposed to be?
know.
Am I supposed to be? Am I supposed
I hear that
to
from everybody.
Am I supposed to be inspired by your showing on Duolingo?
Well, hey, would you believe that Spanish is actually my 5th language I'm learning? Because if you do, but it's not. That's my only one.
I was tempted to follow you, and I thought, boy, this could really drag me down.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to ask about that. So let's talk a little bit about your children. What are they up to?
Right. So I have 3 children, all of which who swim for Nova, and all of which are now out of the sport, and that's not a correlation. Sam is in his senior year at St. Thomas University. He went to swim Division III at Birmingham Southern, and what happened to him was crazy, unthinkable. He and everybody else at the school shut down the whole place. They didn't drop the swim team; they dropped the school, and so they locked the doors. And you may remember that year, the baseball team, they were Division III, made it really deep into the World Series and they actually outlasted the school. So anyway, he ends up going down to St. Thomas University in Miami to finish up his career in an NAIA school. My daughter, Abby, who also swam at Nova, she is now a freshman at Lynn University in Boca Raton. And she is not swimming, but that seems to be her entire social circle. And finally, my daughter, Macy, who you may remember used to wander the pool deck offering gum to all the coaches at Nova. She is now a sophomore at Brentwood Academy here in Tennessee. And she's the last one we have in the house.
Well, I remember all your children, not just the one. So do you think that that was the curse of Benji DeMotte's interesting adventures that happened to Sam? Do you think that was fated to happen, that the college was going to close because he was your son?
The sad side of my career is that in order to do what we did, the kids had to be uprooted over and over again. So yeah, it was a little odd that he had to do that midstream of college. So, it's, I guess, he'll, hopefully, now that he's getting out of college and he'll be an adult, he'll be in charge of his own fate for the first time in his life. So.
I'm sure he'll do well. So is that wife of yours, has she jettisoned you yet, or is she still keeping you around?
So far, it's so good. Now, hopefully she doesn't see this podcast.
Yeah.
She, yeah, she's doing really well. She is right now, I'm going to push her title because it's more than one, but she is the vice president of human resources for the American group for HCA. I believe that she is also spearheading their entire workforce development initiative. So it keeps her pretty busy. She's located obviously in downtown Nashville, and yeah, she's doing really well.
Well, I have a personal experience because I remember when I got for you and for some of Nova people, my now famous appendectomy. I was in an HCA hospital, and the benefit was everyone kept coming in and checking on me. It was like every 10, 15 minutes, somebody was coming in going, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" So anyway, ever. Hey, let's get a little seasonal. What's your favorite Christmas movie?
My favorite Christmas movie is, of course, the controversy of whether it is a Christmas movie, which is Die Hard.
Okay, that's my wife's favorite too. Wow.
Never seen it.
So what's your famous?
How young are you? Sorry, go ahead.
What's your favorite line from Die Hard?
I can't say it.
Okay, I thought that was going to be.
We'll have to bleep that one out.
But you know what it is.
Have you forced your children to watch the movie?
No, I'm not good at that. I don't make a lot of decisions about what gets on the TV. So
okay, well, it seems to me that Die Hard would be pretty fundamental.
I think they'd like it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so does that line begin yippee ki? Yeah. Okay. There you go. Yeah. Aubrey, do you know what we're talking about?
See, I've seen them, or I know what the movie is, but I've never seen it. So
worth saying, yes.
And since you've been down in the great state of Tennessee, Nashville, Jeff and I were talking. He was giving me a little history lesson before, and he was, how he likes his history, a lot of the stuff that nobody knows. He always hits you with these random facts out of nowhere. But so he was talking to me about the Parthenon and how there is a replica where you live, and so whenever, kind of, if you've seen it, does it remind you of Jeff, or does it kind of, like, if it does it kind of make you want to cry or anything like that?
What's pretty fascinating by it is like, I guess I was under the impression that thing was built relatively recently, but it's pretty stinking old itself. So yeah, obviously it's not quite the same age as the original, but I thought
where's he going with this? I don't like this.
Yeah. I thought that was perhaps built like for the bicentennial 1976. It's pretty old, and it's impressive to see. It's the real deal. It's even got a bunch of gold statues inside and all that. So yeah, it's pretty wild.
Did he answer your question?
Yeah. Does it make you think of Jeff?
Well, here's what makes me think of Jeff. I remember working alongside of Jeff. And every now and then I would be approached by another coach who wasn't on the team and was like, "Man, what's it like to work with Jeff? How do you tap into that swimming knowledge?" And I'm like, I'm a little intimidated by him. And I was like, "Okay, well, here's what you got to do. Don't ask him a swimming question first. Start with aliens. That'll loosen him up. And then if you want to slide in a question about swimming, get it in quick because he'll lose interest."
Fair enough.
Yes.
Fair enough. Yeah. Very good. So have you, in Nashville, I have to ask another Nashville question.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen any famous musicians?
Yes. They're all over the place. Wow. In fact, I was at a party 2 nights ago, and Aubrey's not going to know who this is. Jeff, DJ Jazzy Jeff was spinning. Yeah, it was awesome to be there. Okay. Really, Aubrey? All right. There's a guy you may know named Will Smith, but that's his grown-up name. He used to be the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and his DJ was DJ Jazzy Jeff. So yes, him. But yeah, it's funny. It is really weird to rub elbows with lots of celebrities. In fact, 2 doors that way was the one-hit wonder, the Nelson brothers. They're the sons of somebody else Aubrey's never heard of, Ricky Nelson. So And the grandsons of two people that even Aubrey's dad hasn't heard of, Ozzy and Harriet. So that's those are two.
And actually, I have a friend who I think ran into a guy from California. But let me ask a question, and you can answer this with a yes or no. Do any children of musicians swim on your team?
No, we don't have, not that I know of. There's all kinds of budding musicians. Our funny claim to fame, now Aubrey might know this one and Jeff might not, is we had in the lap lanes next to us Steve-O from the movie Jackasses. And so Jeff, this guy made of obliterating himself in unspeakable ways, but he's made a lot of money. He's become an Excel supporter. In fact, he provided us with a guest intro to our weekly video. So yeah, Steve-O's our big celebrity.
Are you? He reminds me of Joe.
Are you telling me he isn't a very good swimmer? Is that what you mean by obliterating
so he was going to do a triathlon, but I'm not. But if you want to see his most famous swimming, and I'm not kidding, Aubrey might be familiar with this. He allowed his friends to put a shark hook through his cheek and tow him behind a boat. Like that was his most famous swimming. Yeah, that's him.
Okay. Now, if you were in Nashville and they called you up somehow, you were at a bar and there was I know you don't go to bars, but if you were at a karaoke place, is there a song that you would feel especially qualified to perform, since in the spirit of Nashville?
My daughter and I have been practicing harmony on the song Africa by Toto for about 7 years. It's not ready for production.
Okay,
but
I think that's a great answer.
I would have to get Macy up there and
yeah. Jeff, do you have one?
Do I have what, a karaoke song?
Oh, yeah.
My voice was completely ruined by coaching, and the best I can do is in church.
I'm sure it was so good before that.
The best I could do in church is to hum along, okay?
All right.
Hum along and direct my voice to the window so that lest it interfere with anything else that's going on, the disruption of harmonic waves and all that sort of thing. So that's what I do. But thanks, Aubrey. Thanks for asking. I'm not sure that was it. Benji, I was never sure when you were at Nova if you were coaching, amusing me, amusing the swimmers, or amusing yourself. Can you give me a little resolution here so I can sleep better at night?
I remember you giving me a lecture, Jeff. You said, you have to be an effective coach, you have to have your own form of intimidation. And I looked at you and I said, I get it. I get the Jeff Brown intimidation. And I looked in the mirror. I have no idea. What do you think? But I think, well, I'm having a lot of fun. Can I say, oftentimes I get comments from people who are not coaches that said, man, how do you do it? How do you work with kids all the time? How do you work with middle school kids? How do you work with high school kids and not just go bonkers? But, here's the thing that I find it really easy, but I also feel like if you have a range of like future people, right? On so one side, let's go with serial killers. I'll say that's a negative. On the other side, like Nobel laureates. I mean, our operating space is like here, right? We work with really talented, well-supported, awesome kids. And so it's not really fair, I don't think, to just lump in what we do with the general population. So these are extremely talented kids. In fact, there's times when I'll have kids in the water at 5:30 and they're not quite doing what I want to do, and I have to pull them out and get on them a little bit. But I'm like, by the way, you're already extremely dedicated kids because you're here. I would like you to be, but average is so far above what we're aiming for. I mean, if you sleep in and skip the next practice, now you're aggressing a little closer to the mean, but they're so far out, so far above what the normal experience for a teenager is. I think it's a real pleasure to work with them, and whether that's amusing them, I think ultimately the last is the answer. It's amusing myself. I've giggled through my whole career. So
That's a great it's a great point that you're making. And finally, yes, I can sleep at night. I will say, and of course, in a shameless shill for my book on Substack, I do
Yeah,
address that intimidating,
yeah.
why coaches are intimidators, and I think it can sound a lot worse than it is. But
Mm.
I do explain the various ways that I think humor is a form of intimidation, would be my point. And that was, they'd sit there and go, wow, that Benji guy, he's really funny. And that would get them to listen to you because they'd have to take whatever you were saying with, well, he might tell a joke sometime soon. We do want to hear that. So,
Well, I
they
mean,
take,
good. That your point is taken. So, Aubrey, how intimidating was I?
You were very, very intimidating. It was
Okay.
tough getting out of bed every morning and knowing that you were going to be on the pool deck. No, you're very, very, very good coach. You had a very good line of when to be serious and when to, when to joke around. So I really appreciated that, especially as someone who likes to joke too. Like I know there's some kids that, 4 a.m. who weren't too excited to be there. But
Yeah.
I think you meshed very well.
All right.
as a plug for Aubrey and for anyone listening to the podcast, I would say I thought the whole point of Aubrey's swim practice was as long as he could grab 10 seconds on the wall and talk to me during that 10 seconds, he felt it was a good practice.
Yeah.
He never stopped talking during practice. There was no recovery time. It was just you talking. But let's get to another serious subject, Benji, if you don't mind. Let's talk iguanas. Now, are
Okay.
they a blood relation of yours or lizards that just fall from the family tree?
I assume you're referring to my son's Instagram, who's become an iguana hunter in South Florida.
Could I possibly be doing that?
Yeah. So it turns out that iguanas are really hard to catch unless you figure out the dumbest way to catch them. If you take a fishing pole and you tie for lack of a better term, a noose out of fishing line, if you're standing far enough away from an iguana, you can beat the thing with this fishing line. It won't move. So you just wrap this thing around its neck and hook it, and there you go. And so yeah, he was getting paid, bizarrely, to relocate these things to the campus of Indian River. As far as I can tell, iguanas are basically a nuisance, but something happened that the Indian River iguanas disappeared. And so Sam was catching these things, taping them up and relocating them. So, yeah.
So they are related to you?
Yeah, I guess for sure.
Okay.
They're all
They're in the
like that.
bloodline.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, if we can go back to Nova for a moment. I
Yeah.
remember there was one week when you came to me and you told me that basically you said Nova was the final frontier, that was going to be the last stop. And then how many days later was it that you go ahead and go over that story?
Well, it was awful. I mean, I hated leaving anybody. I mean, I hated leaving the team. Uh, I'll fast forward to the punchline. I've moved around so much. I know that the grieving period for a coach leaving is roughly 36 hours. You get 24 hours where the kids just say they can't go on, and then 48 hours and they're asking who's the next coach and what will they do better, right? But the process with, it's funny with my wife's career. So many of the stops along the way were where I felt like were really big jobs, and the people she was replacing were retiring. Like these were career ends. So I never know if she's going to take the next step up. So when we moved to Richmond, I knew that there was another level at Nashville, but I had no idea that she was going to actually achieve it. And then hopefully, like I said, she's not watching this. I was kind of secretly hoping she didn't because I wanted to stay in Richmond. But yeah, in true to form, we didn't get much warning. So yeah, I remember walking up to you, Jeff, and I think you were busy, and so I, like the true coward I was, okay, no big deal. I'm just gonna let you know that we're moving. So all right, have a good practice. that, was, that didn't go as well as I hoped.
Well, I mean, it kind of throws into the next question. I mean, I obviously respect and admire you. I mean, probably you are aware of that. And one skill I think that you have in plenitude is the ability to read people psychologically. And you gave some pretty quick insights into others. insights that I noticed tended to stand the test of time. Can you care to comment on that skill? You
That's
were a quick read, and it had a long shelf life.
So that's not a skill that I was aware that I had. So I can respond real time of learning, of hearing that compliment. I I feel like I consciously try to meet. I mean, this is cliche. Try to meet kids where they are. I don't think coaching can be one size fits all. Uh, I think that there are broad, even gender differences, but certainly age differences of how you reach them, and there are, I guess my long-standing belief is that, uh, swimmers, but probably all people, they need your love when they deserve it the least, right? They need it the most when they deserve it the least, and so. Uh, Give me an Aubrey
Mhm.
Bowles any day of the week, piece of cake to coach, right? Super easy kid and gonna succeed and gonna work hard. But also, and I'm taking a little bit of a leap of memory here, coming from such a great, stable home. I mean, everything's great, right? There's literally nothing you can do to damage the career of a kid like Aubrey. But that's what everybody wants to coach. Aubrey doesn't make you earn your money. There were plenty of kids, you gotta figure out what's going on with them. You have to figure out why they're not succeeding. Jeff, you told me something that I was so dumbfounded by, but I really believe is that there are no uncoordinated kids. There are no bad athletes. They're just kids that a coach has failed to break it down in the right way for them, right? And so, you have kids that they get into the senior group at 15 and they're still doing this horrendous crossover and backstroke and their hips are going out the side. And so the coaches that have come before you would say, kid just can't do it. No, I've tried, but there's no lost causes in any sense of that word. And I think and the sad part about club swimming is sometimes you have to treat an athlete as a lost cause based on the destruction that parents are perhaps doing to your team, right? So how many times we've had to part ways with an athlete because of the parents' behavior versus the kid. So I don't know if that answers your question. And thank you for the compliment. I'll need to reflect on that.
Well, I just wanted you to become aware of it because I just noticed that. I mean, it wasn't, I noticed it at the time. And you're very bright, very quick, and, agile, and you would make some very quick assessments. Um, your wife, she was a very stern official, as I recall. Did she ever disqualify you?
Uh, yeah. It's funny. I'm not going to bother to try to zoom this in, but behind me, I framed her very first DQ slip that she earned on the swim RVA pool deck, and they actually gave me the original copy versus just the yellow copy because I had a feeling it was going to be the first of many. There have been times when I need to argue a call with my wife, and the problem is sometimes, unlike other officials, that goes home with you. So, yeah, I think, the one that was the funniest. Is very recent that we have a backstroke wedge rule that is driving much of us crazy, including the officials. But at any rate, I was getting very angry about this on the pool deck, but I've now learned to kind of hold my tongue. Well, I still heard about it on the way home. She's like, well, hey, you have to fix your face. Like if I'm literally getting held responsible for being angry, but not saying anything. But
Fix
yeah,
your face. I like that one.
yeah,
That's a line that if officials hear it, it's going to go all around this country. They're going to walk up to coaches and go, "You really need to fix that face."
yeah, yes,
I think
yes,
I think coaches are going to be hearing this. Now, let me go back to that DQ slip that's
yeah,
framed back there.
yeah.
You went and you went and requested that slip, didn't you? Okay,
I did indeed.
you're acting like one of the officials came over and gave it to you
No.
and acted like, "Oh, this might be of historical interest," when actually you went and got it.
Well, hey, you told me. You just said I have this innate sense of reading somebody. I spotted an early talent. I spotted an aggressive official coming along. I was the first to recognize Katie Ledecky for what she was going to do.
Tell the story about your daughter, Macy, in a practice that you were running for some very elite athletes and
Yes.
what she was running around doing.
So, Jeff, I'm going to have to throw you under the bus on this one. So, Aubrey, I don't know if you remember this. Jeff was such a incredible stickler for so many standards, except for one. Somehow, Nova's national team can do one-hand turns all day long in practice, and it never bothered Jeff. And it would be these guys going
Guilty.
for those NCSA cuts, coming in on the
Guilty.
breaststroke in one hand, and Macy at 5 just couldn't deal with that. So she kept running around as a kid who'd been on deck for one day and just disqualifying Charlie Swanson, all these incredibly talented athletes. Yeah.
Well, you know, she was raised well. I think that's the only thing.
Got a little bit of a thermometer. Yeah.
Okay, so another thing, and this is another, I think, a fabulous quality you possess. I told Aubrey about it earlier. You were always able to show any swimmer, no matter how thin their resume, that there was a college swim team for them. I distinctly remember you walking in and holding up meet results to me, which showed the first place in men's 200 free being 2:15
Yeah.
in yards.
I play this somewhat, I'm not sure I should recommend this as a trait, but every now and then I get on SwimCloud and find the worst college swim team that you can find, right? So go look who got last place, go look at their schedule, see who they beat, find that team, look at their schedule.
Just go down the
And
line.
the point is, I think kids in the South, especially, they're so SEC blinded that that's the only option. And there are just so many incredible places to swim. And I do think that there is this sense that's not entirely true that academics and level of swimming go hand in hand, and that if you're an Ivy League student, there's not a place for you to swim unless you have summer junior cuts. But there are institutions like Swarthmore or Caltech who are extremely good academic schools where the swimming is not unachievable. And so that somewhat perhaps inappropriate game of finding the worst swim team in the country is rooted exactly in what you say. I mean, I think I'm the most proud of the kids that come out of our program who are not yet at NCSA level and they're swimming in college. I mean, to me, that's a kid whose swimming hasn't rewarded in the same way as everybody else, but they still love it enough to swim in college. And I think that's a really good point. And I really value that. And I know, having started my career in somewhat underachieving college swimming, they need them. They would love to have the kids that are just LSC championship cut level. I mean, they thrive on that.
Retracing a couple years back in terms of COVID, how was that for you, and how did that kind of affect your team, especially in numbers?
Yeah, I mean, COVID was a tough time for all of us, and I think the hard truth was that we had to let go all of our hourly coaches. We were able to dip into the reserves and keep paying our full-time coaches, even when we were completely out of the water for a couple of months. What I was more concerned about was the smaller teams in the conference that had no chance, right? There were plenty of them that just no way that they can survive 5 or 6 months that were out. I think we were more fortunate in terms of relaxing the COVID standards at the end of whenever we were coming out of it than perhaps some other parts of the country. It made us all have to be a lot more nimble and creative in how we did things. So when we first got back in, we were allowed to have 3 kids per lane, but in between send-offs, we had to have 1 kid at one side of the pool, 1 kid at the other, and a third kid was allowed to be hanging on the lane rope around a 15-meter mark. And that's how we had to do send-offs. It made it really hard to coach because you couldn't ever give all the kids together, so you kind of running around. I think, it was for swimming, I think it seems to have bounced back, like I guess the rest of society, but it certainly was a time of uncertainty and a lot of struggles for sure.
Mm-hmm. And especially kind of you talked about kind of like the economic impact, and kind of touching on like another area of swimming. Do you think competitive swimming is fairly priced? Like, do you think it's affordable for most? Like, I know my parents would, have an answer for that, especially with, tech suits and everything and travel. But what's yours take, especially as a coach and as a father who has kids in swimming?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that swimming, there's not huge profit margins, so I don't know if there's much room exactly to to kind of figure out how to make it more efficient and more cost effective without scholarship situation. And that I think is the real answer. But let me finish. I think unfortunately in so many sports in high school right now, if you live in a decent size metro area, I think in the public schools, you can pretty much kiss a varsity career goodbye if you're not a year-round athlete. I don't think at any of the high schools in my county, Williamson County, I don't think that you can walk on a baseball team anymore. I don't think that you can walk on a basketball team anymore. And swimming's probably one of the last refuges where you can still do that. Although once you get to the state level, it's all club swimmers anyway. And so I think I think that parents are really having to deal with that is that if they want their kids to even enjoy a varsity career, is going to be some investment at the front end. Now, one of the big variables in our sport is pool time and how much it costs. And there's huge swings. And I know that we have one site right now that's charging us $4 per hour per lane, and another that's charging 18. Right. So that we even within our own program, we've got these gigantic swings. And unlike fields or trails, there's a really limited supply of water. It's not like you have a lot, it's not like you can say, well, I'll just have the kids go run in this trail instead. We don't have that. So is it fairly priced? Well, it is a sport that tends to attract folks who have means. But I do also think there's the other element of that, which is swimming is not seen as an economic means of escape, right? There are some kids that are attempting to use sports to get a scholarship and have a new life, and that's not swimming. Um, and so I don't think I'm going to guess that there is a much bigger need. I could be wrong about this. For some of our more popular sports like basketball and football, that there's a need for economic barriers to be not present in many situations. But I think there's a lot of room for us to do that in swimming. And I do think that we have sponsorship opportunities that we're not investigating. And of course, the wild west right now is NLIs. And for swimming, I have now heard that college coaches, if you have two kids of equal talent, they'll take the kid that is bringing with them NLI deals. And I think they're part of that. They're trying to see that as a somewhat of a replacement for scholarship. But I also have learned, and we're doing a big push here, that if you walk into a local bar or restaurant, sometimes you'll see on the wall the picture of the little league team that they sponsor, Sal's Pizza, Little League team. But they're equally anxious to do that for small NLI deals, right? So you have a local swimming, Aubrey Bowles is going to go off and swim in college. He may not be the kid that's going to collect a huge deal, right? But there's probably a lot of restaurants in the 4 blocks away from your house would love to sponsor a local kid. If that means that they send you $1,000 a semester, or they give you, $500 in gift certificates to the restaurant, and then you post their logo on an Instagram once a month, that's a huge opportunity for our kids. And I think that we're really exploring that for kids to go on to swim in college, but we're also heavily invested in sponsors with our club right now, whose only interest is academic, financial scholarships for kids who don't need it. This is a brutally stupid thing to say, but I will say it. We operate out of Williamson County. It's very difficult to find economic need within the location of our main hub. So that's going to be, for us, that's going to be a little bit more prevalent in our satellites.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Jeff, was it hard to find sponsors for Nova? Was that a tough gig?
Well, that wasn't my responsibility. That would be the executive person who is at that time, Ann McGee. She would go out and find those for the most part. But the other thing we would offer is we would offer need-based scholarships where, you had to turn in. I thought it was done fairly. you had to turn in your tax returns, and a blind committee, people would examine that, not knowing who it was. They would somehow, those copies of those would be blacked out, so they would just look at it and didn't engage with who the swimmer was. So they would award scholarships on that basis. I mean, in that way, a swim team can print money by doing that, by simply giving need-based scholarships. And I think we always did. I mean, I think the thing about need-based scholarship is we noticed that when the people who got them had some skin in the game, that they actually had to pay part of the scholarship, that it worked out a lot better. You gave something away free, it just wasn't valued. But when they had something like, let's say it was $3,000, $2,500, and they paid $500 and got a $2,000 scholarship, that seemed to be treasured and esteemed to a much greater degree. Oh, you said $4 to $18 per lane. Some clubs in this country are probably going, oh my God, what a bargain. Like, I can't imagine what it is in the DC area.
Yeah.
I imagine NCAP is paying a premium price, which makes their model all the more admirable that they're able to put that together. I'm assuming that they have a higher rate. $4, I know, is on the low side.
Well, very, very much so. You know, but by trade-off, I remember talking to Drew Hurth and saying, man, what a dream. You guys, you get to control your own water space. You don't have rent. He goes, yeah, but we're paying $200,000 a month in utilities. I'm like, well, okay. Maybe operating your own 4 pools is a little more expensive than I thought.
It's never quite that. Anyway, so getting back to you called the NLI and the NIL.
Did I say it wrong?
It doesn't really matter. It's all the same. You could put around backwards if you want. How do you think that's affected? Do you think that's going to affect college swimming in the future?
Very much.
It's going to cut down.
By the way, so you've been very kind to me. NLI is the National Letter of Intent. I got that backwards. Name, image, I'm like, NIL. Aubrey, just go back and edit everything I said and put NIL on it. NIL.
No, leave it in.
Yeah, he messed up. True colors.
Yes.
Yes, Jeff. I think that's part of what's affecting it. I'm sure you're aware that the SEC in particular did a big round of roster cuts last year, left a lot of really good swimmers looking for places to swim, and I do think so. So I think the origin and the intent, could be wrong, of the NIL whole legislation was that these kids could then go out and use their image and their talent to make some money. But then, of course, immediately, as money tends to do, it started to corrupt, I think, the intent, which was now colleges are like, no longer are we saying kids can go find their own deals, but let us gather huge pots of money and then we kind of offer that to the kids. So now it's being used as scholarship plus this huge payday. And how does that affect swimming? Well, so the swimming numbers that I have heard are shockingly high as well. And I don't want to say any of them because these are individual kids, but I have heard that there are now kids that are over $250,000 a year going into college for swimming. And
I've heard the same thing whispered.
But I guess mostly what I would say is, well, it's good for them. I don't think I think unfortunately in our sport, the financial benefit that some of our athletes will see is going to not be even close to what I'm afraid is the negative impact of that on our sport.
Well, so do you think, and of course, if that's going to affect colleges, and do you see that affecting Division III and Division II? And if it affects Division III and Division II, I know everyone aspires to D1 colleges, but if D2 and D3 are going to get hit as well, wouldn't you expect a big blowback on age group swimming?
Yes. I think there's a potential answer that I'm encouraged by, but I don't know that I have the energy to proselytize this. So maybe I'll use this platform to do it. I think that there is room for club swimming to step up, meaning if I have a kid who is like let's say winter juniors level, right? So perhaps on the doorstep of a Division I scholarship, but they're not there and they didn't get the spot they want. Why in the world wouldn't I say, well, I'll tell you what, instead of going to a school like Indian River, where you can get an associate's degree and they make you faster, and Indian River has done a fabulous job of this for the last 40 years, right?
Yep.
Why not send them to the University of Richmond and then have them train at Nova? Why not have Nova get you ready to get to enter the Division I level at where you want to be by your junior year? Why not come to Belmont or Lipscomb and swim at Excel? The team that I'm pretty close friends with the coach, and I trying to shove him off the ledge on this to make a move, is the guy who coaches named David Orr. He's head coach of Memphis Tiger. He's in a fabulous university pool with no team. Why in the world would he not be able to be that, for lack of a better term, junior college experience, have them enroll in a 4-year school, have them continue to swim at the club? Because I think we all know that many of our major schools have university club swimming, but that's not ever designed to get a kid much faster than they were when they stepped through the door, right? If you want to go swim, and I'll pick on an SEC school at Tennessee, now we have a pretty good club team out there, but not the university club. So if you said, oh, yeah, we've all had these kids that decide to go to college. They're not going to swim, but they're going to try the club team. It has its role. It's an amazing, fun experience, but it's not going to necessarily get the kids faster. I think, Jeff, that there's a model for clubs with established senior programs to start basically accepting college freshmen and getting them ready to then transfer in, just like Indian River. But again, if I'm, you could argue this one way or the other, but why not get 2 years at University of Richmond versus Indian River? And I think clubs, especially if you have a kid that's got some aspirations and they didn't quite get there at the end of high school, I think that's a model. I don't know how to implement it, but I think that's a model.
Well, certainly for the boys, it would bring them to the same age as the international kids that they're competing against as far as the college scholarships go. It's an interesting idea. Yeah, I think that's good.
Especially at Nova. Why not approach the athletic director and say, you don't have a men's swim team, but I can actively recruit kids to attend your university. How about you throw us a bone, right? Maybe they give you team gear, right? They don't have a college swim team, but you're bringing kids in, they're paying tuition. I don't know why athletic departments wouldn't be receptive to that.
Yeah, I think it's like any new idea. It has to be tried before it went. I know Norris Eastman, who was the coach many, many years ago, and actually the guy who I think is most responsible for Virginia swimming and where it is today. He used to say, when the athletic director would tell him, you have a non-revenue producing sport, he'd say, I got 20 guys on the team who are all paying full tuition. How is that not revenue producing? And he said the athletic director used to just look at him and shrug and go, well, you got a good point. But yeah, that's an interesting idea.
I think you're playing a really important role in our sport that maybe Jeff and I don't fully appreciate yet. I think this idea of media for swimming, of influencing for swimming, is big. I know that we have we're very fortunate at Excel to have pretty aggressive social media, but that's not me doing it. It's a younger coach. So any more exposure our sport can get, I think you're doing a great thing.
Thank you. Yeah, I see football, basketball, all these, they spend so much money on social media and kind of like what they produce. And so I feel like that's, right now, at least in this day and age, it's the most effective way to get, people to come to your program, to get involved with the sports.
Anyway, I think one of the things that it kind of touches on, what I've always felt about sport is that no one wants to hear about the home runs you hit. No one wants to hear about the relay leg that you did, but everybody likes great and funny stories. And I think that's what sports actually provides in abundance. There are so many funny stories. I mean, you have a world of experiences, and sooner or later, even a bad experience becomes something funny.
That's true. And you gotta, like you said, you gotta figure out what people want to hear. So what's funny to some people, here's something that I say to all the little 10-year-olds, and I love it. Aubrey, you are a punchline. I've been coaching a long time, and I say to these guys, hey guys, I used to coach a boy and a girl who were born the same day to the same parents, but they weren't twins. That'd be Aubrey and his.
Well, there were 3, absolutely.
That's the punchline, because they're
Exactly. There we go, Joe.
Well, and that brings up, you would always be bringing me videos of practical jokes that you would play on your own children.
That's right. Yes.
And is there anything new that you've done and memorable, or have they actually sniffed you out? The best story was the one when you were moving to Nashville.
Oh, man.
And you showed the kids the house that you told them you were moving to. Go ahead. Let the world know. That was one of the funniest moving stories I've ever heard.
Well, yeah, so all along the way when we moved, we've been very fortunate that our living situation has generally been a little bit of an upgrade. And so that was kind of the way that we could get the kids through the move, because they were always angry that we were moving. And this time, the house that my wife and I had to buy in 36 hours had a pool, which is the first time we'd ever have a pool. And so we thought this was going to be a big deal. And the house itself, so we wanted to hide that from the kids. We wanted that to be a surprise that we were buying a house to the pool. And so I decided to go online, and I found a perfectly suitable picture of a house. There was nothing wrong with this house, but it wasn't at all flashy. And watching my 3 kids, they like, so this is our new house? I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with it? Well, I mean, nothing, Dad. That's fine. And then Sam would say, wait, Mom wants this house? So I actually did something dumb, is I showed them a couple of pictures for real of the house, but of bedrooms and stuff. Nothing that would, so at any rate, I was like 2 hours left in the drive from Richmond to Nashville when my son was like, now, wait a minute. If I look at this bedroom in this picture, I'm looking out this window. Like, he was starting to figure out that I was, and so then we get to the neighborhood, and I'm trying to keep this going. And I said, now guys, don't get excited, because when people build a neighborhood, they put like the nicest houses at the very front. So you want to live there. So,
if I could interrupt, didn't you show them a picture of like some 1950s 3-bedroom rancher? Didn't you do that?
Yeah, they call it the
Come
block.
on, you got to come clean on this.
Yeah.
I remember going, oh, that's going to be a good joke.
They were not. So anyway, so we pull into the neighborhood, and they're like, I would take that house and that house and that house, but not the one we bought. We pulled up to the house, and my wife was waiting for us there, and Abby yells out the window, Mom, this is not our house. You're the wrong one. Get in the car. So yeah, they ran up the stairs and at the front of the house, and the kids said, Dad, the neighbors have a pool. Not the neighbors, guys. So Abby, we had been in the house 30 seconds. Abby ran down the stairs and went out and dove into the pool with her clothes on. She was so excited. So,
what a great baptism for that.
Yeah, it's funny. My other fun one was, I remember asking Jeff. I said, Jeff, you're a writer. What do you think, like obviously there's people who are wildly successful and who have millions of readers, but how about somebody who averages, I don't know, like 180 at 100 reads a day? And he said, hey, that's really successful in this business. If you can accomplish that, great. And so I said, well, Jeff, I'm your man. And I gave him one of our printed practices. I said, Jeff, I've got about 80 to 100 kids every day who read my stuff. I thought he was going to punch me so hard. And I remember signing it. I said, I'll sign it for you so you can have my work.
Well, that reminds me, when people say to me, they go, well, what would you do for your career? And I said, well, I was a teenage heartthrob. And I let that sit for a moment, because apparently I can make my face look really blank. No one knows I'm thinking. And they sit there and they look for a minute and they're going like this. And I'll go, every time teenagers saw me, their heart rates went up.
Oh, well, there we go.
So, you know,
Very
True.
funny.
that was,
Yeah, there you
you
go.
know,
I
so,
like it.
but it requires that blank face where you actually appear to be taking yourself seriously and wondering why the other person isn't taking you seriously.
Those TVs that were up around the pool,
Mhm.
Jeff hated
At Nova.
because Jeff asked me as soon as I got there. He's like, "Hey, can you do me a little research and see if we could get these clocks fixed?" You know, and you probably remember Jeff's like that.
Oh yeah, you could do it blindly.
Yes. But they kept breaking down, and as far as I could tell, he put them in the back room and kick them a couple times, and they fire back up. And so he's like, "How can we get these things fixed or
The great
replaced?" I'm like,
mythologies
"Yeah,
of Nova. Yes.
I think you could just put a TV on the wall for $300 and stick an Apple TV next to it." So Jeff was like, "Okay, well, go ahead and try this." And then it became
And it
pretty
worked.
popular. Every
Yeah.
wasn't Jeff.
A little bit
And
of
they
Jeff
kept-
died inside.
And
they
I
kept populating.
I use those as well. But I will still say that if you started on a practice and some of your practices were not as complicated, I could still beat you to the end with the
No, that's true. But here's my response, which you hated, right? Chopsticks. They're great, right? They're awesome until somebody invented a fork. And they're like, okay, well, fork is way better. So you can still get chopsticks if you want them nostalgically, but let's face it, a fork, it's so much better than
guilty as charged. But, you know,
Jeff.
I
So
love
mad at
those clocks were a part of my childhood, you know, all that sort of thing.